Are you an executive or business leader whose company has been rapidly growing? Well, that's great, but it can cause some challenges. Your business is doing great and you're bringing in more customers than ever. That's good. But now you have to hire a bunch of new people, and that's changing that small company culture that everyone loves so much. Things are growing so much that you invest in a new ERP or project management system so everyone can be more effective and productive at what they do. That's good. But now people need to learn a new system and do things a different way, and they find it a bit more challenging than they used to. That's bad. Things are moving so fast and growing so much that you install new SOPs to make sure that everything gets done properly and nothing falls through the cracks. That's good. But now people are forced to let go of the way they've always done things, their own personal systems that they developed, and they're not happy about it. That's bad. If you can relate to any of that, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Avish Parshar. I am a professional speaker, and I use my 30-plus year background performing and teaching improv comedy to help groups embrace change and to help leaders lead their people through change. So obviously I'm brought in a lot of time to help organizations work through a change, and one of the changes I am often called for is rapid growth, which is a good thing, but as we saw in the intro, there are growing pains involved and it can lead to struggle and challenges. Now, as a speaker, whether it's in a keynote or a training workshop, my approach is not as much tactical as it is mindset. There are a lot of great books, programs, consultants, whatnot, who can give you all these tactics to lead a change. But a lot of them miss the mindset, the emotional side, the connection side, the human side. You can have the best tactics and plan in the world, but if you don't address the mindset and the fact that people are resisting the change, you are going to feel like you are continuously pushing a boulder uphill, just waiting for it to roll back down. So here are a few ways you, as a leader, can lower the change resistance and start getting your people to embrace the change that is often caused by rapid growth. Number one, realize that not everyone cares. Now, this may be a hard truth, but here's the thing. Not everyone's going to care about the rapid growth. Yes, to a degree, everyone's going to be happy that the business they work for is succeeding. But when you are a leader, especially if you have some ownership stake, depending if it's a smaller company, or even if not, if you're a leader and you really invest a lot of your energy and motivation and self-identity in your company, you see rapid growth as an amazing thing. It's like, rah, rah, woohoo. But here's the thing. For everyone who works for you, that may not be the case. Now, it will be for some, but there are going to be a lot of people in your organization, on your team, who they want to do well, they want to be successful, but really it's a job for them. And they like doing their job and they want to grow, but they're not so invested in the growth overall of the company that they're going to be as rah-rah about it as you are when things really take off. Now, that's a hard truth, as I said, because we want to believe that we've got everyone as invested in the success of the organization as we are, but that's just not reality. So don't confuse your good feelings about the rapid growth with their scared feelings about change. And here's the thing, the bigger the organization, the less they're going to care, right? The farther removed they are from the rewards of the growth, the more they're just going to be like, oh, rapid growth is great. That's just more work for me, especially if they have no actual benefit as a result of the growth. So this is where, as a leader, you really need to pay attention. And one of the best things you can do is have this yes and mindset, right? This is one of the fundamental things of my keynotes, is the difference between having a default yes and yes but mindset. The yes but mindset here would be someone's complaining about having to do more work, having to change their process. You're like, yeah, but we're growing. It's great. That's you saying they should be happy about this. But are they? How do they really feel? Use yes and to pay attention. Be like, oh, and yeah, this is going to make things harder for you. I understand that. And you probably don't say this outright, but just having that feeling of, wow, yeah, this is great for the company, but it's going to make things harder for you. Like, you got to acknowledge that so people understand that you're not confusing your excitement with their fear. So this first point is very much about paying attention, acknowledging, and validating how they feel instead of trying to explain it away by saying, oh, but it's a good thing we're growing so fast. Number two, involve them in the change process. Put in simpler terms, you have to ask and listen. I was chatting with a friend recently. He had been a leader at one organization and then just in the last couple weeks had taken a new job as deputy head of another very large organization, like 200 people. And what he said was very instructive. He says that his whole approach is to just ask people questions and listen to their answers. Rather than coming in as the new leader or leading this change and trying to tell people what they're going to have to do and why it's going to be a good thing for them, you just ask questions and listen. His perspective, which I think is useful for any leader, is that those people are the ones dealing with things on a day-to-day basis. So when we're talking about the changes that come from rapid growth, all those people that you lead, they're the ones that have to deal with the consequences and ramifications, right, both good and bad, of the rapid growth. So instead of telling them what to do or how the change is going to have to happen, or, oh, here's the new SOP we've decided, or here's the new ERP we're going to use, ask them first. Involve them in the change process. On the flip side, I remember back when I worked as a computer programmer in a Fortune 100 company, I don't even know if this is due to rapid growth, but one year they decided that, oh, we're going to introduce a new change management system for software. Now that makes total sense. That way you can keep track of what version of software is in production and whatnot. It makes total sense. But at no point did they actually involve any of us in the process. Now, obviously the higher ups in IT did, but those of us who had to use this system weekly, daily, whatever, were not involved. No one asked me or anyone in my department or team, like, hey, what would you like in a change management system? How do you put in changes? What are the features? What are the things you need to enter here? They just started way high up and assumed that these people know everything that's going on. That made me and everyone in my department very resentful of this new operating procedure we had to implement. So number one, really listen to people. Ask them questions and listen and take notes. Number two, incorporate what you can. If you can incorporate some of their suggestions, if you say to them, hey, we are growing fast and we need to start changing our operating procedures here. What are your suggestions? What can you incorporate? And incorporate those things. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to incorporate everything. And when you can't, communicate that. Let them know that, hey, I know you like this, or here's how you like to work. That's not going to fit into the paradigm we have, or we can't do that because of X. Or even just, hey, we listened to what you said, but we took a lot of input, and the majority wants to do things this way, so that's the way we're going. Like, whatever it is, just that open communication is going to be getting people much more engaged and involved in the change you are trying to get them to embrace, in this case, rapid growth. And this is a big piece of what we do in my trainings. This is a big application of the yes and idea. It's you want to get people's input. Instead of saying yes but when they're suggesting what they want, you listen and you just have a yes and mindset. You say yes and, you dig deeper, you really try to learn what their input is, and then you do the best with it. You're not always going to make everyone happy, but you do the best with it. Number three, you have to give up a little bit of vision control. What I mean here is, as a leader, you've probably got vision. And as leaders, we often have a greater sense of vision, a greater sense of the future than our employees. So the temptation here when leading a change, especially a positive one like rapid growth, is to control the vision. You've got your vision for where things are going, why it's going to be good, and you want to go and dictate to people, well, here's the future. Here's my vision. Here's what we're going to do in the future, and here's why it's going to be good. But that just makes people resist more. You know as well as I do that when there's something that's going to be uncomfortable for you, something you don't want to do, and someone starts rattling off reasons why you should do it or it's going to be to your benefit, it just makes you dig your heels in more. So instead, we need to give up a little of that vision control and switch from telling to involving and asking. Let them chew on and think about how things are going to be better. You could use a hypothetical question, which I like a lot, which is, hey, how could you make your work better in the future? How could you use this to your advantage? Now, a lot of times they're going to say nothing. There's no way. It's just going to be a pain. Don't yes but that, right? I talk a lot about this in my keynotes. Don't yes but that initial response. Let them have that feeling. Acknowledge that. Embrace it. And keep them talking, or let them keep thinking about it and bring this back up periodically. It'll kick around in their head. And if you're not pushing so hard, they'll start generating their own ideas. Now, sometimes when they come up with these ideas, it's going to be a little bit different than your vision for how things will look in the future. Or it's going to be a little bit different from what you think will be better about the future. And in that case, you might feel that loss of control that your employees are feeling, right? You might feel like, oh, well, that's not where I saw this going. That's where if you can let go a little of that control and make the vision more collaborative, it's going to get much more engagement and involvement, because when everyone has contributed to, hey, how are things going to look in the future? They feel some ownership. They feel some investiture in it versus just being told by their leader, well, here's how things are going to be now. Now, one thing I talk about with improv and in my keynotes is that this is going to be a process. You're not going to ask an employee one time, hey, what can we do with this new reality? How can, now that things are changing, now that we're rapidly growing, what opportunities do you see? Chances are they're not going to immediately come up with an amazing answer that blows your mind. It's a process, right? Just like in improv comedy, you focus on one step at a time. In your dialogue, in your building a team, and you're getting people invested, it's going to happen a little bit at a time, a little bit of involvement, but you'll end up somewhere absolutely amazing with it. So those are a few ways you can start using the idea of yes and to get your employees to embrace the changes that come along from the wonderful problem of rapid growth, because they might not care as much, but you can get them involved, you can get them caring, and get them caring about things they believe in, then suddenly they're going to lower that resistance and everyone will be on the same page and moving forward. If you enjoyed and got value out of this content, please give me a like and a subscribe. And if you'd like some help, whether it's speaking to your employees, getting them to embrace change, or speaking to your leaders and giving them ideas on how they can lead change, please visit my website, avishparashar.com, and be sure to reach out to me. I would love to chat.